Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde. I am joined alongside a very special guest, Chicago Bears defensive back Josh Blackwell, second-year player. He was on the Bears last year. He joined before week one, had a big impact on this team. Excited to talk about what the big impact is going to be this upcoming season and what Bears fans should be excited about. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button if you like the material, and put your comments in the comment section below. But Josh, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Year two's coming up. I am excited for you. I mean, like a lot of people were like, hey, we signed another DB last year and you had a huge impact on the team. But before we get a little bit more into you, another big impact to players is super important is the locker room energy. So Josh, from a player's perspective, who was the funniest guy in the locker room last year?
The funniest guy in the locker room. I'll have to give it to Mike Pennell. He was a funny guy. Travis Gibson. Probably them two. I'll give it to them two.
Okay. So Mike unfortunately is not with the Bears anymore, but Travis is.
Yeah.
What
Travis
made Travis so funny?
Yeah, he just came in with he was just trying to cut up with the guys, have a good time, like just cut jokes, picking guys for any random thing. Nah, he's just a funny guy.
Love it. Because you need a funny guy in the locker room, especially with a season like last year, a little tough on players and fans. You got to have someone with the high morale. But a follow-up question to that is, I'm sure you've seen it before, is like you got the different guys in the locker room meme. Like some guys have made it, like got the guys on with the headphones, the guys that are pumped up, the guys that are just like in their own element. Yeah. Who was the guy that had the best music in the locker room?
Who had the speaker last year? We would switch who had the speaker a lot. Let's go Jalen Johnson. I'll give it to Jalen Johnson.
I feel like Jalen Johnson would have a fire playlist before a game. Like he's so zoned in.
Yeah.
Man, did you ever get the boombox or no?
Nah, I was pretty quiet. I wouldn't say too much. When it was game time, I kind of had my own headphones in, kind of listen to my own stuff. Yeah, that's kind of me though. Kind of how I am.
All right. And what's your number one go-to to listen to before games?
Ooh, so believe it or not, I would rather go like an R&B, like a smoother vibe than any kind of hip hop rap I just like to just chill out, and then when it's game time, you just cut it on and let's play.
Ah, man. All right. That's a different edge that I'm sure a lot of guys do it, but you always hear about the crazy, like deep bass, like, shaking the room kind of guys. But that's a good energy. And it worked out for you because you had some pretty good games last year. So, excited for you for that. But we were chopping it up a little bit before the show, Josh. And one more thing that I think I kind of thought about as we were going through was talking to fans about what it's like. Cause you're from, you're used to warm weather down in Atlanta, especially when you're training. What was it like playing in the first cold game as a Chicago Bear, and especially that Bills game? You were talking about that specifically, but what was that like as a player?
Yeah. So, I mean, it gets cold in Atlanta, but like, obviously Chicago cold is a lot different. But I remember in pregame, like we walk out of the tunnel, I had 4 sleeves on. I had 4 pairs of sleeves on. No joke. And I was like,
oh my God.
I don't think I've ever truly been colder. Like running around, the ground was hard. I was like, it was just crazy. Like something I've never really experienced before. Not that cold to where I'm bundled up still and still kind of cold. But like seeing the fans' energy and seeing them interact with us, like even in the midst of all that, like it was pretty dope. And like I said, I played in a game that was below 0. So yeah.
Man, and so when you were like doing pregame drills or when you hit somebody, I think you did have a tackle or two that game, if I'm thinking back correctly, because there are a couple cool photos of you. Did it hurt you more than it hurt the receiver, or was it kind of just a mutual thing?
I ain't gonna lie, like maybe the first hit I probably felt, but like your adrenaline's going so much at the time. Like, I will say the ball was hard though in warm-ups though. Like catching the ball was a little different, which is kind of impressive to see, like guys not wearing sleeves and gloves and that. Like it's impressive, kind of, different, but like it's impressive. So
That was Robert Quinn during his franchise sack season. I don't think he was wearing sleeves, and it was a cold sleet game. And I was like, man, some guys are just crazy.
Some
Like
guys are like
that's
crazy.
wild.
Like some guys come out in those kind of games in pregame with no shirt on. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I couldn't do it, but like, yeah.
Who was like in regards to that? Let's go off that really quick before we start getting really into the topics we were going to hit on today. Out of all your teammates last year and so far that you've met this year, I know you were talking about that you met some of the rookies already. You've put in a little bit of work with them and some of the second year guys. Who do you think is like the craziest guy that you're happy that they're on your team in regards to like, watch out for that guy on the field? Who out of anybody so far that in the roster right now?
Jack Sanborn.
Jack Sanborn, local Chicago
Mhm.
kid. Why is that? Is he just a madman on the field?
You just watch him play and like he's just insane. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like he's the type that just would literally play through whatever. You know what I mean? Like he's just a dog to me. Like he just has that hard nosed, like rugged mentality. You know what I mean? Like I would definitely say Jack, 100%.
100%. And that's good to
Yeah,
hear because, he came on the scene as a rookie last year out of Wisconsin,
yeah.
local Chicago kid from Lake Zurich, not too far from Halas Hall
Mhm.
or Soldier Field. And he's probably played in some cold games over at Lake Zurich. So,
Yeah,
and at Madison. I mean, the dude lives for it. So I'm
yeah,
happy he's on the team too.
yeah.
Let's
He's
be
a dog.
frank.
He's a dog.
But so, Josh, let's get into a few more of the questions. Thanks for answering those because, again, fans don't hear that all the time. And, you
Right.
might hear it in a media interview sometimes, and the media sometimes be like, no, that's not important. That gets people pumped up, though,
Hmm.
especially to hear one of your linebackers like that. And also happy to hear that you're excited to play in the cold because, it is Chicago Bear weather.
Yeah.
Um, so last season wasn't ideal for anybody. It was hard to be a player. It's hard to be a fan in the stands, because you are spending a lot of money to go to the games and
Right.
it's tough. And we talked about it too. You guys went 3-14, but 7 of those losses were by one score. You guys could have easily been a 10-17 last year.
Right.
Easily. You guys had a lot of talent and a lot of people overlooked it. But last year was a huge step in the right direction for the development and future of this team. So just from your first thought, what was your biggest takeaway from last year as a development as a player, but also for the team moving into 2023?
Yeah. So when I got here, I noticed it was a lot more rookies and younger players than where I was at before in Philly. So I was like, it's a young team. Um, and even that, like playing throughout the season, the games that we did lose, we were close. And I feel like the young guys that we had with the team were the ones that were doing it, obviously, right? And it's just kind of promising to see like we're all relatively new to this and we're like producing, like we're close. So I think we added some pieces this off season, you know what I mean? Like, and watching us work in OTAs and over the summer, like it's pretty cool to see us like kind of gelling and kind of clicking. And now you're seeing like the building blocks kind of stack up and seeing like we're gonna be something special. You know what I mean? So um, yeah, I'd say that. Like just although we were losing guys in the locker room, we're never pointing any fingers. It was never any blame. It was all positive. It was always we're close. So it was all positive. And then seeing guys like not like quit or anything and just kind of like, hey, like this is what we got to do to get better because we're this close to being, you know what I'm saying, great. So yeah.
That's exciting. And that's something, and it sounds like Flus had a big impact on that, like the no pointing of the finger.
Right,
He
right.
wanted to build that type of culture. Ryan Poles too. That's huge because back in, the Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey days, that was the downfall of those Bears teams was the finger pointing. And just like any other team, the finger pointing is a killer. But
Yeah.
it sounds like you guys were all on the same page, which is great. And I'm excited to hear that because, from your personal experience, and you said you were at a Philadelphia, I mean, the team that lost in the Super Bowl last year,
Hmm.
and you saw a lot of those veterans, and I'm sure I'll go to the next question in a sec because you were on the Eagles. Bears picked up TJ Edwards from the Eagles. So
Right.
maybe we can talk about that in a second. But, in regards to that, what was the difference in culture from an Eagles perspective to a Bears perspective? The positives. And if you want, you can talk on the negatives, but, a Super Bowl team does have to have good culture. Do you
Right.
see any similarities? What was better in Chicago? Just let the fans know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I'll start with this. I think Justin Fields is very similar to a Jalen Hurts in a lot of
Wow.
things. Like his mentality, how he attacks things. Like they don't really say a whole lot about their business, sharp, their leaders, and that's something I picked up pretty early when I got here. I was like, they're really similar, like young guys, like just about their business. But I would say, to my point earlier, like in Philadelphia, there was maybe 9, 10 rookies, including undrafted guys, like all together. And then
Wow.
when I got here, it was like what 17 of us, or a lot of
Yeah.
it's a bigger number of rookies, right? So I would tell the guys like Jalen Jones here now, like and Kyler and those guys, I'd tell them like for me being in Philadelphia, it was like after practice, the guys would go home and see their families. You know what I mean? So I would just go back to the hotel and just chill by myself. Whereas when I got here, it was like I was in college again because I got a whole bunch of guys my age that don't have families yet. You know, they were like, let's go eat, let's go do this. So we got close doing that. And then in terms of culture, like I don't think they're any different. Like the coaching staff from Philly and Chicago were together 2 years before in Indy. So I think it's the same culture. I think they're the same guys, same foundation. I just think they had a couple of years or a year before the staff got to Chicago. So that's
That's
what I'd say.
that's lucky. That's luck, especially as a rookie for you to come into the league and have something like that. That's
Oh
awesome
yeah,
to hear too. And the
yeah, it's
championship
dope.
mentality.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so I was kind of hitting on it earlier. Another local Chicago kid, TJ Edwards, signed with the
Hmm.
Bears on a 3-year contract. Did you work with him at all in Philly? Like, Bears fans, from a stat wise perspective, and you can go look at his highlights. He's a hell of a player. He's a tackling machine. But you got to see it up close in person at training camp, and
Yeah.
also know him as a guy. So when he signed with Chicago, can you give a little bit from a player's perspective what Chicago is getting in TJ Edwards?
Oh yeah, you're getting a freak for real. He's he impressed me a lot when I was in Philadelphia. Like another undrafted guy. Like he just kind of like his mindset and his attack of the game and how he works is just really impressive to me. So I had my college coach was actually one of the linebackers coaches at the Eagles, and we would talk about him before I even got there. Like he was just a good player, a good worker. He's gonna make every tackle possible he can cover, and he's just a leader. Like he doesn't have any issues to me. Like no issues at all. Like he knows what to how to get the best out of his teammates. Um, and yeah, like I wasn't as close with him in Philadelphia, but now that I've gone through a season and like and we can kind of reminisce on Philadelphia or whatever we had when I was there and stuff like that. Talk about the other coaches and players and stuff, just stuff like that. But now uh, we have a dog along with the other linebackers, so it's exciting to see.
Man, that's
Yeah,
exciting. I mean, that's so exciting to hear, especially, from a player's perspective. Guys are honest about their teammates. You kind of said it earlier, like Sanborn's, he's crazy, but TJ Edwards, he's a dog. And that's
yeah,
exactly what Chicago needs. And, kind of going off that, you're talking about, the veteran leadership and what we're getting. Eddie Jackson is
hmm,
your leader of the DB group. I mean,
yeah,
he was Chicago's golden boy for a long time, the DB. Chuck Pagano came in, wasn't Eddie Jackson's type defensive play.
hmm,
You got to let Eddie Jackson run wild. And because that's what he is, he's an absolute dog. And
yeah,
Alan Williams comes in, and Eddie Jackson almost had career highs in 12 games. He still had 5 more games to go
yeah.
before he got hurt.
Got
You
hurt.
know,
Yeah,
what is it like working with Bojack? Because, he is, you see him on the field. He's always, he wears that captain with a lot of pride now that the
yeah,
Bears brought back the captain patch, but he's always jawing at guys. But it looks like it's an encouraging kind of, hey, man, do this, do that as a mentor and a teacher. What's it like working with Bojack?
Bojack he's funnier than people give him credit for. I'll say that he's a funny guy. He loves to work though, and he loves to compete, and he likes to see the guys in the room just like be at their best. Um, Now he'll cut up with us. Like if we make a play or not, like he'll be the first one to celebrate with you. If you miss the play, he'll be the first one to be like, "Come on, like let's make the play." You know what I mean? Like, so he's a great leader. And obviously, like what last year we got to see a sneak, well, not a sneak peek. Y'all seen what happened in 2018 and 19, but before he got hurt, he was back to what he was. You know what I'm saying? And he even tweeted a couple of days ago. He was like, "I'm about to be the best safety out this year," and I believe it. We believe it. Like we know what he's capable of, and now that he's healthy, I think do everything he said he will. So it's exciting.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it, man, because you can't see it in the camera. I mean, my whole office is covered with Bears memorabilia. I'm hoping to get your stuff up here eventually too. I usually try everyone I bring on. I usually try to hang something up on the wall. But you know, one guy I got up for sure is Eddie Jackson, and he's the absolute one of my favorite players on the Bears in recent memory. And
Yeah.
just, hearing that from you and like hearing that he's an encouraging type player, because I'm not going to name names around the league, but there's some other type players that kind of seem to be about themselves, at least in the spotlight. And Eddie Jackson always seems to be the kind of guy that's there for his teammates. And that's the culture that Chicago needs. So thanks for sharing that, Josh, because that's super impactful. And, talking about a guy that's impactful as well on the Chicago Bears, but also on the DB type game is defensive coordinator Alan Williams. He led the Colts to having one of the best consistent defensive back groups for 4 years running with Flus while he was in Indianapolis. Last year, you saw that. You had rookie, you had Brisker, you had Gordon, Jones, Jackson. You had a rotation of type of guy, and Vildor. You had a lot of guys that were rotating in and out all the time, but everyone was making plays consistently. And, we talked about before the show, but like when you had your chance to shine, like he put you in a good position in order to make a play and be a better player. And that's why fans, fell in love with you as a player. So he's a mastermind at what he does. But what has Alan Williams done, as a coach, as a friend, as a mentor, to have you so NFL ready and be able to produce like you did last year?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of building a foundation of trust, right? Like we would have meetings before I even was really playing, right? I was still strictly special teams. We would meet. I would be with my with DA David Overstreet and Allen, and we would kind of just talk about like ways we can improve. We watch practice. We watch game cut ups of what it's supposed to look like, what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. Kind of just building like that a trust in all reality. Like he knew how to put people in good positions to make the plays that were necessary when they had those opportunities presented themselves. And before my first start at Green Bay, we would watch cut up after cut up of just every possibility that they could, pull out of their ass, whatever, and just what would you do here, kind of a thing. Like I would do this, I would do this. Okay, what if this happens, kind of a thing. And I think just building that trust and him believing in me, and then me just playing my game, that was just the best of both worlds for me. But yeah, he's a good leader for us, and obviously he's seen different types of DBs, so he's able to coach DBs in their own ways. He doesn't try to cookie cutter mold everybody into the same player. So he utilizes that and just puts people in good positions.
Love to hear that. I mean, so I remember that game very well because I projected that it was Sunday Night Football in Green Bay. And I think are we talking about the same when you played in Green Bay? Were you talking about the Lambeau game or were you talking about the Soldier Field game?
The Soldier Field game was my first start.
Oh, okay. So my fault. So I was talking about the Lambeau game, and I remember very distinctly it was a Sunday Night Football game, and you guys were marching down the field a few times, or Green Bay would start marching down the field a few times, and you guys would shut them down. But that the Soldier Field start, that game, that was interesting too, because if I recall that correctly, I mean, one, it was Aaron Rodgers' last game at Soldier Field, which is so nice to hear as a Bears fan, especially over the last couple of years. This year, I think he ran away from Green Bay because he knew Chicago was going to be a problem like in 2018 where Rodgers couldn't do anything. But, that game against Green Bay at home, yes, it resulted in a loss, unfortunately, but you guys played hard. And, out of when you're on the field playing Green Bay, Josh, is there a different mentality in the locker room? Does Flus and the coaches, Lovie Smith walked in his press interview in the early 2000s, and the first thing he said was, "We're beating Green Bay." Yeah. Is that still the mentality that walks when you walk into Halas Hall or anything Packers week? Because week one's Green Bay at home. Facts. Is that kind of what happens again?
100%. So I say this when because like obviously like before we get to the league, like we know there's rivalries, right? So they sent all the rookies down, and they gave us a whole history lesson on Green Bay and Chicago. So we got the whole story, the reason why Chicago hates Green Bay. We got everything. So yeah, that was ingrained in our heads when we first got here. So yeah, that whole week was beat Green. And even when I'm in the city and people find out that I play for the Bears or who I am, they're like, beat Green Bay. That's all I say. And it's like, yep, beat Green Bay. So yeah, that's still the motto for sure.
I love it, man. And so going off that, Justin Jones came out swinging last month, or was it a month and a
Yeah.
half ago, when he was like, "Oh, I hate Green Bay."
Yeah.
When that happened, were you blowing up his phone like, "I love it"? Like, what was your
Of
initial
course.
reaction when you saw the comments?
Of course. I mean, fans are going to be fans. Like, whatever Green Bay, whatever they had to say, whatever. But that's the mentality, right? Like, we hate Green Bay. That's what it is. So, uh, of course, I was right there behind him. Like, we hate Green Bay, and that's what it is. So,
Man, so let me ask you this before we go to our next question
yeah.
about just the North as a whole. Ryan Poles comes in his opening press interview before he signed you to the roster. He
Mhm.
hasn't even done anything at Halas Hall yet, and he says we're coming to take the North and not giving it back. What is the team mentality? Is that somewhere imprinted in Halas Hall that you guys look at? Like, is that something that motivates? Like, what does that speak to you from your GM saying that?
It shows me he wants to win. He wants to win right now. Like, that's what his plan is, right? Like, when you walk into Halas Hall and you take a left going towards the locker room, the Lombardi trophy is right there. You know what I'm saying? It's like a picture of it. The real one is in another room, but like that's the mindset. Like when you're walking to the locker room, you see the trophy. We want to win. We want to win now. And being that he's the head of the organization right now, like that's what you want. You want the head guy to be like, we're winning. Like that's the goal. So as long as he's thinking like that, I know he's bringing in people that are gonna think the same way. So yeah, absolutely.
We need to hear that because it's been a long couple of years since, the Bears have had the opportunity to, take the North. I mean, we went to the playoffs in 2020, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, got eliminated right away.
Yeah.
But 2018, man, that season was so special.
Mm.
And I don't think we have, except Patrick Scales, I don't think we have anyone on the roster that was on that team that I can actually think of. White hair
I was about to
was,
say, yeah, Cody. Yeah. That
Cody
might be it
was.
though.
I wish we had Santos because we all know what happened there, but I'm
Yeah,
not
that
going to
was
get
crazy.
to
That was crazy. Yeah.
so you were I think you were at university at that point. Were
I
you
was
or
in
were you
school.
still in high school when that was that your freshman year at
That was
university?
my sophomore year at Duke. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you saw that happen, did you feel for Bears fans or like what was your initial reaction?
At the time, like I was a Falcons fan, and we had just come off a
Oh,
crazy, you know what I mean, Super Bowl
yeah.
loss.
I,
But
I
that
know
was at
what
the
you're going to
time.
say.
So of course it's like that was tough. Like that's a tough way to lose. You know what I mean? But it was a good football game to me because at the time I was just a fan observing. You know what I'm saying? Good football. But of course, like at the time, like that's a tough way to lose, especially in a good season that y'all was having that year. Like, yeah.
Man, and that was a special, yeah, and that first opening night, week 1 against Green Bay, but in Green Bay, with Khalil Mack just absolutely terrorized the Green Bay
Mm,
Packers.
hmm.
I'm excited for you guys to do the exact same thing week 1, but at Soldier Field, because you guys are
Yep.
going to set the tone for the season.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I will not be at the game because one, tickets are insanely expensive
I can imagine. I can
to
imagine.
go.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'll be I'm going to be at the Raiders game. I'm trying to go to one more game this year. And then I'm having a big viewing party. Fans, everyone, I'm dropping that information a little bit, so stick with me. But we're having our big viewing party that we have every single year. So you'll see Josh on the field week 4 against the Denver Broncos at Murphy's Bleachers in Wrigleyville. So stay tuned for that. Josh, I wish you could come, but you're going to be a little
I'm
occupied
gonna be a
during the
little
game.
busy, right?
Yeah. So otherwise, we'd love to have you there. But Josh, going back to when you were preparing to go to the NFL, when it started to become a reality, but then, that was a special moment in your life. Like, wow, I'm actually going to play in the NFL. But
Right.
everything that led up to it, what was or who was your biggest inspiration growing up playing football?
So I told you I'm from Atlanta. I grew up a Falcons fan. I wanted to be Michael Vick. Like I wanted
Man,
Michael Vick. But that's just an Atlanta kid's like, that just makes sense. But as I got a little older and started to watch, like I started to get into my own position and stuff like that, I started to like watch Patrick Peterson, like he was the guy. And then started like tweaking my game and watching other players and just kind of picking at them. So I would say to start Michael Vick, I wanted to be that. I wanted to run and score touchdowns and stuff like that. But yeah.
You got that right now. You have your own teammate is playing like Michael Vick, breaking his
I was
record.
about to say, yeah. So now I have that in modern day. Yeah. So
you and Field should behind closed doors one time see who could actually chair it up more. I'm just saying, like, if you got that dog in you, you might as well give it a try, right?
might as well. Yeah, might as well. Shoot.
And going back to that real quick, yeah, I saw they brought Michael Vick to Halas Hall, I think back in March or April. Did you have the chance to meet him when he was there?
Nah, I didn't. I met Devin
Man.
Hester. Devin Hester came through while I was here, but I didn't even know he was here. That's pretty cool. Nah.
Yeah, no, it was there was picture. I'll text it to you after this. It was a picture of him and Fields, chopping it up, doing some private work together. It looked like in that indoor dome that's at Halas Hall.
Oh, I did see that. I did see that. You're right. I did see them pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they should, make that happen again so you're able to meet, I'm just saying, whoever organized that.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
And so going to Devin Hester real quick, that's kind of cool. Bears fans obviously love him, should be in the Hall of Fame
absolutely.
in all of our opinions.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Have you met other alumni? And if not, who's the cool? I mean, like, if you have, who's the coolest one you've met?
I don't recall meeting anybody else. Oh, I did meet corner last name Azuma.
Oh, Jerry Azuma?
Yes, I met Jerry Azuma. That's right. Yeah, I met him. He was cool. I went to a Chicago Fire game a couple of months ago, and me and him sat together. And we kind of
nice.
talked. Yeah, no, he was cool. I met him, and I really met him a little more than Devin. Like, Devin was kind of like in passing, like a handshake, nice to meet you, kind of a thing. But those are probably the only two that I've met that I recall.
And I know, so you must have, I think they bring Tillman every year to come talk to like the rookies. Did you miss that opportunity? Did you sign too late?
I was too late. Yeah, I missed that opportunity. But he was here again, and I was talking to the rookies, but I think that was either after an OTA practice, so we had already left, or I just wasn't there. I had missed that opportunity too, so haven't met Pat Tillman.
Well, hopefully you get to meet Peanut pretty soon because he's a pretty cool guy. Actually, when I was a little kid, I got the opportunity to meet him. He was the coolest guy ever. It seems like, he works for the FBI. That's pretty darn cool.
Oh, man. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
But, Josh, I don't want to take up all your time. I really appreciate great conversation. And, I'm pumped for you this year. I know a lot of other Bears fans are too. But, kind of talking more about, let's go back to the Bears real quick. And you started on special teams, and then you worked your way into getting a lot more playing time. And when you had that playing time opportunity, you took advantage of it. You had a lot of big plays. You had a lot of, impact on the game. What was the moment last season that just ingrained in your mind that, like, this was my favorite playing moment of 2022? Do you remember it distinctly, or can you give a couple examples?
So I have two that come to mind immediately. I was on special teams, this punt against the Giants, the forced fumble and the fumble recovery. That was crazy. It was like an out-of-body experience, to be honest with you. Like, it's happening, you know what I mean? And like, that was so cool. Like, I still got the ball over here. It's pretty cool. And then the second one was against Green Bay at home. My first start. First play of the game, me and Aaron Rodgers like make eye contact. It was kind of like wow, like I'm really here. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I dreamed of. I watched this guy play my whole life, and I'm playing in Soldier Field. Like, it doesn't get any better. You know what I mean? Like, so those two moments stick out for me the most.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, like, when you locked eyes with Rodgers going off that, because not a lot of people can say they've done that. I mean, maybe 30, 40 people have been able to say that in their entire lives on the opposing side of the ball. What went through your head in that moment? Like, were you like, oh shit? Like,
so it's funny. It's funny. People ask me, they were like, were you nervous? And it's like, at that point, like, I don't have any time to be nervous. There's no time. Like, you just got to play. Like, just do what you've been doing, preparing for. Like, just go play. But in the moment, like, it just happened. And you, like, in between plays, you're like, wow, like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, I covered Randall Cobb. Like, I've watched him my whole life, like, growing up. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But, like, yeah, it was kind of a surreal moment. Like, I'm really here. I'm really doing this for the Chicago Bears. Like, You know what I mean? Pinch me almost. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. It's cool stuff.
And who was the best trash talker that you had to deal with all season out of anybody that you had to defend or anybody
That
on the
played
other team?
against?
Who?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't even recall anybody really talking for real. Like, to me, uh,
If you don't have an answer, how about
I don't
this?
think
How
I have
about
an
who's the
answer.
best Bears trash talker?
Let's see. Bojack's gonna say something. Jalen Johnson's gonna give you something for sure. Justin Jones in the middle is he's
Chopping
definitely
it
one of
up,
those guys for sure. I'm gonna give it to Justin.
man.
I'm gonna give it to Justin for sure. Yeah, he's definitely the one that talks the most on the defense.
I gotta get it. I gotta get him back on the show, man, because I don't know if you saw the show that I did with him or he
Uh-huh.
talked about it, but he's so funny. And he did it while he was at the chiropractor. And I was like, and he like FaceTime me. I'm like, you know, this is video, right? He goes, yeah, I don't care. I was like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
And
There you go.
here's a question I asked him. He had a really good response. I'll tell you about it after the show.
All
But
right.
you know, now that the new, are you a video game player? Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
play Madden at all?
I play with
So,
Justin. I play with him. Yeah. I don't
so
play Madden.
he,
I don't really play Madden as much, but I mean, it's cool to see myself on Madden, so I play because I want to.
so how do you feel about your rating this year?
Well, I don't have anything to base it off of. Like, so it was my first time on the game. It was just pretty cool. I have a 94 speed though, which is like 20 or top 10. Somebody posted on Twitter. It was pretty cool to see. But I mean, next year to be higher. That's the goal for sure. Can't be in the
I
60s.
I tweeted back at the Bears. I'm like, all these guys are gonna like either have like 10 points more or something like that by week
Got
9
to.
because that's when they
Right.
do that.
Yeah, they skimped some of the guys. I ain't gonna lie. Like Justin at 76 is crazy. Crazy. Let's see. Bojack was what, 85?
Yeah, if he would have played all season, I think he would have hit 90. I mean, like his stats would have spoke to it.
Easy. Yeah, they skimped a lot of guys. I wasn't too pleased. Mooney was like 81. DJ Moore 86. It's like, come on, like. But yeah, I believe I'm with you on that. Like after a couple of games, they're gonna have to update the rosters and bump it up because no way.
So do you think your speed should be 94 or should it be a little higher
No,
than
it should be a 99.
Had to ask. How does your Madden character look? Because when I asked Justin last year, he goes, dude, my guy's ugly. I had to edit him.
Yeah, it don't even really look like me to be honest with you. Like, I mean, obviously it's a video game, but like it's not close at all. Like,
You got to change that. You got to change that.
I'll change
Don't
it for
they?
sure.
Don't they have it so like with AI now that if you take a picture of yourself, it'll get pretty close to the animation in the new Madden?
Really?
I think that's what I've been hearing, that there is the capability of that now.
So I know they do that on 2K. Like 2K, you can take a picture of yourself and it'll put your face on your player, but they haven't made it yet.
I stopped doing that because I was like, dang, I'm an ugly animated guy. So I had to stop. But
kind of funky,
you know,
for sure.
it is what it is. We'll have to chop it up later this year, Josh, over Madden or whatever game that you're on. We'll talk about it after the show. But you know, last question. I tried to keep it to 30 minutes, but we're having too much fun. But this was the last question of the day for you, Josh. Kind of going into 2023. You got to tell us what's the energy around Halas Hall so far. You know, what's with training camp starts tomorrow. We're recording on, July 24th. You report tomorrow, July 25th.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what should fans look out for? What's the energy, and what are you giving the message to Chicago Bears fans?
Man, we're excited. I know the guys in the locker room are excited. I know the fans are excited. Get prepared to see, a successful Chicago Bears team. Like, we're going to be making plays on both sides of the ball all year. Like, even in OTAs, like it was kind of a healthy competition, like offense and defense. You're both making plays. So we're excited. We're ready to go. It'll be the first time I see the guys tomorrow since I've left for OTA. So, yeah, no, we're all excited. We can't really wait to get started. You know what I'm saying? And, start winning for real.
And so week 1's against Green Bay, we talked about it a little bit, but what's the one, if you could say it in a few words, what's that game going to be like?
Blowout.
Oh, I love it. That was the best 2 words that you could have put together. Blowout. Josh, you're the man. I love it, man. I'm excited for the energy. 1, your Madden rating's too low. 2,
Thanks.
I can't wait to see what you do this year because, by the way, that Giants game, that fumble recovery, put me back. So I put a $5 bet. It was a 20-leg parlay on that game. And I was 1 away. And one of the legs was Bears have a fumble recovery. So when you did that, I was like, boom. I was so close to winning $800. And the only thing that held me back was that Ebner did not get a half yard more. And I was like, oh, because he rushed and then they called it back. So it said I had won. And then it said something like taken back or whatever. And I was like, oh. But that's when I first got to know you, because you were the guy that's helped almost save the parlay.
Yes, sir.
So appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Man. But Josh, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a ton of fun. Really excited for you this season. I'm going to try to run into you at training camp this Saturday.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try to chop it up for a second. I'll have my mics with me. So we'll do our best. But dude, excited for you. You're going to have a great season. I would love to do a mid-season check-in with you if you have the time, maybe during the bye week. But it's going to be crazy, man. I'm excited for you. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Vody, joined alongside Bears defensive back Josh Blackwell, and we will see you guys next.